My essential question is always what I want the end result to be. So for today, for example, my learning goal is how can students identify the beginning, middle, and end of a story or in their writing. So at the end of the day, their learning goal is to be able to answer that essential question.
So today, we are going to talk about how do we identify beginning, middle, and end of a story, or when we write. Today, you're going to do some writing. So I'm going to post up our question because by the end of today, you're going to know how to identify the beginning, middle, and end of a story, or how to show the beginning, middle, and end when we're writing. I have a story for you this morning. It's called Rapunzel. How many of you have heard this story before? So some of you have, and some of you haven't. That's okay.
I heard it at they make those kind of stories at libraries.
Yeah, you can find this story at the library. You're right. Well, I want you to listen to this story. Once upon a time, there was a girl with long hair. What did you think about my story?
That was sure.
What did you think about it, Isaac?
That wasn't the whole story.
What do you mean it wasn't the whole story?
You only read one part.
I only read one part? What do you mean I only read one part?
That if you read the whole book, it would take long.
What would happen if I read the whole book? What were some things you might have heard if I read the whole book? Curious?
That there was other things in the story because you only read the title.
No, I read the title, Rapunzel, but then I said, once upon a time, there was a girl with long hair.
But you didn't do the rest.
The rest? What do you mean by the rest? What does that mean?
The other parts of the story.
So there's other parts to stories, right? You know what those parts are? Parts to stories have something we talked about before. Angela, what are parts of the story?
They are the pages you read.
Okay, they are the pages that you read. What do we call those parts, though? What do we call those parts? Mohammed, do you know what we call those parts? Every story has them. Every story has a beginning, what comes before the end, or the middle, and it has an end, right? Every story has a beginning, middle, and end. I'm going to read you today the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This is a story that you heard yesterday. You heard it the day before, so you are very familiar with this story. We've talked about this story. But today, I want you to really listen for the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story. Remember we had in Sean's sandwich the other day? And we pulled out in Sean's sandwich and we said that sometimes the beginning and the middle and the end is kind of like a sandwich. When we make a sandwich, we have two pieces of bread, right? And the first piece of bread, that's the beginning. And all that stuff we put in the middle, that's the middle part of our sandwich. And the bottom piece of the bread, that's the end. And remember we looked at that sandwich? Well, it's kind of like the same thing with the story. Remember we talked about that. So I want you to really think about, while I'm reading you Goldilocks and the Three Bears, I want you to think about the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so turn on those listening ears. Make sure your bodies are sitting in a listening position. Good job. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears who lived together in a cottage. All right, so what we're going to do, boys and girls, is we're going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. So I think most of them learning goals were met, especially at the beginning with the beginning, middle, and end.